Hey guys, I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
I'm Spencer.
Dan.
And this is Board Game Rundown. And today we are going to review Reality Shift Deluxe from Academy Games. This plays 2 to 5 players. It says 20 minutes. That's right.
That's pretty accurate.
It could be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It could be 20 minutes. I've played this game now several times in the last couple days. We've tried out a bunch of the different
Maps, courses.
Yep. We've tried out with the some of the cubes, the cubes that are different from the regular version.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've even done the power up.
Is it Academy Games or Apollo Games?
Well, Academy Games and Apollo Games. Apollo Games is underneath Academy Games or published through. But we got this from Academy Games at Origins.
All right.
So they gave us this copy for review, full disclosure. The guys had already demoed it at Gen Con the year before. So this game was on our radar. We were kind of excited about it. In this game, it's a race. You're going to start at the green circle starting cube, and you can go in any direction that allows you to move, that you can move, where there's paths, and you're trying to get to this red square ending cube. The awesome thing about this is that these cubes are magnetic, so your racer can go on the side. Oh no!
Crush.
Boom.
Somehow he jumped to the sides, but I was just showing off how it rotates.
So your racer
That's just rotating.
can stay on the side there, so you can drive all around the cube, go all the way around any paths that are open. A very cool thing you can do on your turn, you're going to have a hand of cards, and you get 3 actions. You're going to have a die that you roll. That's how much you can move. So I can move 4. You have to, if you decide to use this movement die for movement and not just turning around, you have to use all of the movement on that die. So you must move 4 spaces. You cannot double back. That's why you would spend that whole movement to then turn around and you change direction that way. You can discard a card for the movement that's at the top of the card. That's your second action. You don't have to do that, but you can do that. You could also use that movement to turn around if you wanted. So if you wanted to use this movement for moving and the card for turning around, you could do that as well. Then the other thing you can do is these cards have a way that you can shift reality. And by shifting reality, it might tell you you can rotate a cube 90 degrees. It could tell you could tilt a cube. So you're going to basically, on an axis, tilt a cube and squish. The rules are with this, though, is that you have to have the card color must match the top of the cube that you're shifting. White cards are wild, and the white cubes are also wild. So any card can shift a white cube, and then a white card can shift any cube.
Unless
it is your color, so red on red in this situation would protect this cube from moving.
Yep.
There are additional rules in the deluxe game. We're not going to get into all of those. We'll let you discover them for yourself. We were trying alternate setups. There are cubes that have portals in the deluxe edition, which will allow you to drive in and then pop out at any other portal on the exposed side. There's also a board that the deluxe edition comes with that has portals on it, which you're welcome to use as well. You can pop down onto that board, drive around. The board is 2-sided, so the other side of the board doesn't have portals. I find that the board makes it very easy to rotate our setup here so we can see all the different sides of it and everything. So it's very useful.
I will say I am mostly sure that the base game comes with the board as well.
Oh, it might.
It's not just the deluxe.
It might. Yeah. But the board does make it easier to turn and look at stuff. The deluxe edition also comes with power-up cards.
Yep.
The power-up cards will give you basically you play the card to do the ability. You can have up to 2 in your hand, so on and so forth.
They're pretty good abilities too.
Yeah. I also I forget what this cube was called, where you get drug in and it spits you out.
It's like
a vortex
a whirlpool.
cube.
Yeah,
vortex cube.
Probably vortex.
Super cool. Really neat. Love the concept. And then there's like the white portal, which then just destroys your bike.
Yep.
So you could just put a cube that is an instant kill. The awesome thing is if your bike gets destroyed, well, that's fine, because at the beginning of your next turn, the first thing you do is materialize on a start point. You are able to drive through checkpoints. If you're the first person to go through a checkpoint, you get the card for it. That gives you an additional respawn point.
I'd like to amend my earlier statement. It does not come with the board.
Okay.
I was looking at the component list, and it's listed in the component list
for the deluxe and not the. And then there's also a white racer, which will allow you to play with five players, and it can provide additional rules for the white racer as well.
Yep.
That basically covers what the deluxe edition is. Let's get into our thoughts on the game. Bobby.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Sure. What's kind of funny is like maybe 2 or 3 hours before I showed back up at the booth and saw that you had gotten this copy, I had purchased a copy.
Oh, so you're already excited.
I was already excited about it, and I believe Spencer had a copy
from last year.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was on our radar.
Yeah.
It's just a really neat concept to me. I like games with like magnets and the spatial like puzzle that you're trying to work out with the boxes and everything like that, and trying to figure out how can I rotate that to not crush myself, but to maybe crush Tim and use his corpse as a pathway to victory. Like that's always a good time.
Yes.
It does come with some player aids that are helpful. And then it does a pretty good job breaking down how the cubes manipulate. 'Cause I know it's a big part of the game. Like, well, how is this card supposed to turn it or rotate it? Does it stay in this square? Does it actually flip up top? And it does do a good job of breaking that down. Some of the other rules, I didn't quite enjoy the flow of how the rule book went,
Sure.
and it was a little difficult. But thankfully, I'd had the teach at Gen Con to understand more of how it goes. And I think Tim's description is enough to get you going and playing.
Yeah.
Even though it's not all the minutia, it'll get you on the board.
And,
So
right, and that'll also then your follow-up questions will be in the rule book, and you can you can find those and get through it. But yeah, being taught it, like I stood and watched. I think you guys learn it at Gen Con last year, and it made even going in a year later almost cold with the rule book yesterday when we started playing it with some friends and family. Sorry, Dan.
I was at a bigger event.
you were. But it made the teach was like super
easier.
fast. You know, I probably spent more time trying to just get the game set up the right way.
Yeah.
Which isn't that hard. We were just trying to replicate it exactly as it was on the in the book. But
but these components are super nice. Like the blocks interlock pretty good. So they're not just going to fall over
they don't
super
magnetize
easily. Yeah, they're
to
not
each other.
magnetic, but the way these little
they-
divots are on the corners, they kind of interlock a little bit. So that's super cool. And yeah, I don't know. I really love that spatial puzzle of that's what got me into it. And like I had a game, I think it was Zero Gravity, where it was magnetic and people moving around, and like I like that spatial puzzle, and just racing in this like Tron-esque environment with these cars is super cool.
Right. Yeah. I think Agree. Spencer, what do you think?
Well, I played this game quite a bit, and one of the things I really love about it is there's just so many variations, so many different rules you can add, or the different cubes that you can swap out, and the different setups. I mean, they give you a bunch of alternate setups, but you can make your own too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And believe it or not, those setups can drastically change how the game plays.
Yeah. So there's 20 setups in the book.
Now, the one thing that I have found is about half the time, it turns out one person just spawns right next to the thing and wins.
Lucks into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really fast win. And it does happen. We had just played some. Each game was very short, but also
I mean,
takes almost no time to get
out of a
back up.
20-minute game. I mean, it probably took 15 minutes. So really, was it that short? If the game is
and I mean,
slotted for 20 minutes,
if someone wins on the first turn, oh no, we have to reset it. Okay,
Right.
we're done. Let's start over.
And one
move
of
the cubes better.
Right. I was saying, and one of the things that the game that they do advertise, they talk about, is that you can get the deluxe copy and the standard copy, and you put all those cubes together and do like the mega track, and so you can make it a bigger track that would take a much
curious
longer
about that one. I didn't
time
get
to
all
race.
the
cubes.
mega track. So.
Yeah.
And the board adds a nice little element when you're using it, so that you don't always just kill yourself when you try to go off a cube. When we played the first time, we just spent the whole time trying to kill each other, and it was fantastic. And then he won because I was focused on trying to kill him.
Yeah, you just had a different. You had a different win goal in mind.
Yeah. His win con was slightly
What's funny
different.
though is that usually when I describe Spencer, I'm like, oh, he's so sweet, he's such a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. Die.
I mean, he's got to get it out somewhere. I
Yeah.
guess. But all right, Dan, what do you got?
Well, I'm kind of the holdout of the group here, just because everyone knows just certain things.
You don't like fun.
I don't like racing games.
Oh, that's what it was.
I tend not to like chaotic stuff. I just tend not to enjoy it. Like, I have fun when I'm doing it, but like I would never recommend like, hey, let's play this today kind of thing, right? Like I not recommend, but like I wouldn't like offer it as a choice, right? I do like spatial stuff. I'm also not like, I don't care about the Tron universe and stuff at all, right? So it's like we're going through these bikes and we're doing all this stuff. Yeah, cool. It's whatever. It's a racing game. It's just like how I see it, right? So like, I always have fun when I play this game. I've played it a few times, and it's fun when you're playing it. But like, I never feel strategic when I'm playing it, like, because there is like decisions that you're making here with what you're rotating, but like by the time it gets back to you, especially if you're playing in a higher player count game, right? By the time it gets back to you, everything is so different and moved that you're kind of just, it's like reactionary, right? You're just like, okay, let me look at my hand. What's the board state now? What is my best move I can do right now? You know, and there is some planning ahead, like, okay, if I do this, then whatever the hell cards they have in their hands might be able to kill me like this. But like, really, you're just doing it, getting as far as you can and hoping that other people can't kill you. And if they do kill you, then you're just killing them, and then you're getting as far as you can. And it's just that over and over and over again of that. And again, in the moment, it's totally fun. I just, like, when we're done playing it, I'm just like, okay, what's next? Like, that's just like my mentality towards it. This was my first time playing with the power-up cards, and those things are crazy. Those things are just like game-changing.
They really are. They really are
stuff. So I like when games add that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, the biggest positive for the game, other than the spatial element, because I do like that, the biggest positive is the insane replayability, and just like nothing is ever gonna feel the same when you do it. I'm also a huge fan, like what Spencer said. I think the board is really cool, not just because, you know, it looks nice and it's practical, it helps with the rotation stuff, but having a game of 3D magnetic cubes and you're like racing around them is cool. But then saying you're racing on these cubes and you can go onto the ground, drive around, and drive up a different cube.
Yeah, that's always cool.
That adds a whole cool. It makes it feel more 3D because you're interacting with the world around the 3D cube.
It's 3D and 2D.
Yeah,
it's 5D.
It's 5D.
And so I think the board might be my favorite part of the game because it adds practical changes. It adds a really cool feeling to the game with the 3D, and then it adds the portal stuff, the portal interactions on the board as well. So I think that's an incredible addition. I'm really happy that's there. But yeah, that's my basic thoughts. I have fun when I'm playing it, but like at the end of the day, I'm not going to wind up playing this game again until one of you guys bring it out and say, hey, we're going to play Reality Shift. I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, cool, that game's fun. Like, that's just how I am.
No, totally.
Yeah,
totally
it's fair.
I love chaos in games. This kind of hits a sweet spot because it's not that hard to teach. It plays fast, which for this kind of game, I could see if we were playing, and this isn't taken away from anybody else's feelings or anything, but if you're playing a game for like an hour and a half, and all it is pure chaos and you can't really plan, that'd drive anybody nuts. I get that. Game's 15, 20 minutes, you know, it's over pretty quick. You're like, wow, okay. And usually it's kind of fun to just like watch a cube get rotated over onto your friend, who is now not your friend anymore because you squished him. You know, and it'll happen to you. It will happen to you. But I like, it's kind of not necessarily like stand up moments, but there were definitely moments of playing this over the past couple of days where it's like, and Spencer, like literally the last game we played, made a move that gave Bob the game. He rotated a cube in a way
to kill Dan.
Sometimes killing someone can win them the game.
Yeah, so that again cost Spencer the game. Spencer's desire to kill Dan. There's a theme here that I'm wondering if do we need to talk to HR? But no, this kind of game, again, for everything that it does, is super fun. It's very creative. There's nothing else like it, which is another huge positive, because it's not like, oh, well, I like this game, but it's basically this, and this is a better version. Like, no, there's nothing like this. This is the only thing that's like this. I mean, there are other racing games, but no racing game that goes 3-dimensional, 5-dimensional.
And shifting and rotating
and the way
tilting.
that you can change the board around, I think, is super cool. All the different setups and the different cubes. I still want to play the one that is literally just the tower. Like, how freaking cool will that be? I mean, it will be a tower for 2 people's turns, and then it's going to be something completely different.
People are going to start collapsing
because they're going to slide out, and then that's going to potentially crush anybody on the side of the board. All kinds of crazy stuff. But I just love the possibilities that are all there. Dan was right. The power-up cards are insane, really powerful, and you can play with rules that give them to you easily, but they're really not that hard to get, because if you go through a checkpoint, you can either take a power-up card or you can take the checkpoint if it hasn't been claimed yet. So that also then makes the checkpoints that have already been claimed useful.
Right.
So, again, that's a huge improvement. It already fixes like one thing where it's like, well, that checkpoint's dead to everybody else. I guess I'll just cover it up. Where now it's like, no, we can all go through it and get something for it. So lots of improvements. The deluxe edition is definitely a strong recommend. I think the base game will be fine. You'll have a great time with the base game. But if you have the means and the ability, the deluxe edition, I'm just going to say is the way to go.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really good. So let's give this a rating. Dan, how does that work?
Hi. We're all going to rate the game from 0 to 10.
Oh.
We do use 0.5s because it makes the scores more variable. At the end, we'll average them all together so that there's one score for Board Game Rundown on Board Game Geek, Discord, and anywhere you may ask. Thank you.
Oh,
No, thank you, Dan.
You're not at NPR anymore today. You're not the rundown. Bobby,
Yeah.
why don't you give us your rating for Reality Shift?
For
Deluxe.
me, I believe it's a 7.5. I'm glad I own it. I like to play it. Probably not quite my favorite racing game, but I do enjoy the spatial elements that it puts on there.
Sure.
So, yeah, 7.5.
Spencer.
I'm going to give this one an 8. So my kids can play this. It's
Yeah.
not too complicated for them, but it makes them think.
Oh,
Because-
that's dangerous.
Well, so it's not just a mindless game. They're like trying to figure out what happens when the three-dimensional object is
Right.
turned. Yeah.
Dan.
Waiting for my name, Spencer.
Oh.
Dan?
You threw it to you last time, right?
Yeah. It's a fun game. It just has a lot of things in it that aren't what Dan is looking for, and I'm gonna give it a 6.5. It's good.
Well, I guess I like this game the most. I'm going to give it an 8.5 just for all those things I said. Again, the component quality, the style of gameplay, it's fast, it's easy to get to the table. All those things.
And magnets.
Magnets.
Magnets
more
are
magnets
super
and more
cool.
games.
Yeah,
They're
for sure.
so cool.
They're very
Yeah.
cool.
So we take all our scores, we average them together. Beep, boop, 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 boop. 7.6.
There we go.
Not bad.
That is a solid rating.
Yeah.
Good time. Yeah, and like Dan said, he has fun while playing it.
Yeah.
It's just not like one he's necessarily
Right,
would, like,
itching
pull
for.
off.
Right.
the
Yeah, I
shelf.
mean, I've probably played the game like, I don't know, 5 times or something now, and not once have I been like, ooh. It's always like, eh.
Yeah. So again, various levels of enjoyment, but I'm glad we have it. I'm glad we got the opportunity to play for review. We would have just ended up reviewing one of your copies
Right.
anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
But anyways, this was super fun. Really glad to do it. So for the board game rundown, I've been Tim.
Bob.
Spencer.
Dan.
This was Reality Shift Deluxe. Thanks for watching.